Hello again. This is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. And this time we are going back to the Klondike to find out what happened to some of those gold seekers there. And also to find out, you better know if you're going there, the difference between a Cheechako and a sourdough, and which one you want to be, and not make the mistake that the Cheechako did in the story that's in this travelogue. And that Canadian Blue Jay at the outset here is telling you to watch this travelogue because you never know. You might be like the gold miners and strike it rich. And we're going to look at some of the women and what they were like and how they worked out going to the Klondike. And finally, how did the Canadians keep all of those wild, gold-crazy Americans under any kind of control as they all searched for gold? How did they handle that? Well, there was a fella in there by the name of Sam Steele. So let's go, and we're heading for the Klondike. You might have seen this map or diagram of a map in some of the other travelogues that I've made, showing the route, between Seattle and north, finally to Dawson City. The brown line on the map, of course, shows the ship route along the coast. But in this diagram here, I've added the blue line that shows the road that you can drive today. And you drive into northern British Columbia up to near Prince Rupert, and you can drive by highway and loop down into Skagway. And then, of course, you can follow the blue line, which is the road on to Dawson City. There is no road, by the way, between Skagway and Juneau. That's all mountain coast country, accessible only by ship or airplane. You can see the Gold Rush country by flying to Skagway, Whitehorse, or Dawson City in the Yukon. You can take a ship into Skagway. You can drive to all three places by taking the Canadian route. And it's all paved highway. Just run off the top half of the tank, as it can be further than you think between gas stations. Driving down to Skagway from the Canadian north, you'll go through a place called Carcross that has picturesque local Indian paintings in the town site. The Carcross used to be called Caribou Crossing, but of course I've never seen any caribou there. And it's also along the route, this road into Skagway takes you along the White Pass Trail, which was one of the routes to the Klondike gold fields. And it really is a picturesque ride because you follow the old White Pass Railway train track. Whichever way you might decide to go, you'll find the whole trip a lot easier than many Klondikers did. Now, let's take a look at the route back in 1898. The whole distance to the gold fields was treacherous. Some were injured, some drowned, and some, like this guy, died by avalanche. Most were inexperienced. Some had never been out of the city. Up from the coast and in the mountains was Lake Bennett. Frozen solid, the newcomers had to sit out the winter. At first ice breakup, there was an immediate race, full speed ahead, down an unknown river. The first one heard the roar of the rapids ahead, but paid no attention. The water hit the walls of the canyon, and it foamed back to the center, looking like the mane of a white horse. Hence the name of Whitehorse and the Whitehorse Rapids, and the name later of the town that formed in the area, Whitehorse, Yukon. Several of the very first ones drowned. They had no idea they were still a long way from the Klondike. The followers that came afterwards were a little more organized and more cautious. A little later, a wood track, similar to a railroad track, served to haul supplies around the rapids. Today, Whitehorse Rapids have been tamed by a dam that raised the water level through Miles Canyon. Tourists often visit Miles Canyon, which is just on the outskirts of Whitehorse. The White Pass route from Skagway gained the upper hand when a railway was built through the pass. It was a typical dangerous mountain construction job that resulted in the periodic improvement over the years. The incline of the grade was leveled over time, making fewer treacherous turns. The old original wood trestles have been replaced with newer steel ones, so you should be able to feel a little safer if you happen to ride this great route. Here is a look at the modern train that tourists take along this same route. If you go north, you might be well advised to know the difference between a newcomer and an old-timer, and to be aware which category you might fall into. The inexperienced greenhorns were called Cheechakos, not too smart in the first place, and always wanting to become a real, genuine, experienced northerner. The sourdoughs, on the other hand, were older, wiser, experienced, real northerners. One story is that this young Cheechako asked a group of sourdoughs sitting around a bar table, what have I got to do to become a real northerner, a real sourdough like you guys? The old sourdoughs thought they would have a little fun with this Cheechako. So they said to him that he had to do 3 things before the stroke of midnight. There you are. He had to guzzle a glass of hooch, shoot a grizzly bear, and kiss one of the girls who worked at the hotel. The Cheechako quickly guzzled down a glass of the hooch, rolled his eyes toward the sky, and staggered out the door. The sourdoughs laughed and thought they had seen the last of him. Then, just before midnight, the barroom door opened, and there was the Cheechako. His clothes were torn up. He was scratched from head to toe. Blood was oozing everywhere. And he came up to the table and he said to the sourdoughs, "Hurry, tell me, where is that girl I have to shoot?" Well, now, I hope you don't make that kind of a mistake if you want to go north and you want to become a real sourdough. They came in all kinds of ways, pushing carts and backpacking. But many had their belongings hauled by horses, who were in high demand, but poorly fed, overworked to exhaustion, and often mistreated, and then left to die on the trail. There's a plaque on the White Pass Trail today that commemorates the about 3,000 or so horses that were victims of animal abuse by those crazy to find the gold. These next few photographs that you're going to see are not very pleasant sights at all, but they do portray how sometimes we humans can trample over everything and everybody in our pursuit of anything that resembles a dollar bill. Dawson City, in the heart of the Klondike, grew overnight. They formed long lines to file their gold claims. It was a serious business for many, and the small gold pans were replaced with larger equipment to process more of the creek beds and hillsides. And soon after the initial rush of Klondikers, who were mostly men, miners, women soon followed. Some came looking strictly for adventure. Some came looking to establish a business in the new gold area. Others came looking for the dream of a husband and family. When the easier living of summer was over, sometimes men and women paired up for the winter. Sometimes the relationship was over once springtime broke. Other times, of course, the relationship lasted a lifetime with children and family, and their descendants are still in the Yukon today. Dawson City fell under the iron rule, or you could say the steel rule, of Canada's Sam Steele of the Northwest Mounted Police. Steele had the ability when to apply the strict law and when to ease off and give people some leniency. People knew his rules. He allowed saloons, gambling, dance halls, and prostitution in the lonely, faraway wilderness. But he was unbending in not tolerating card cheating, obscenity, or any disorderly conduct. Liquor traffic ran wide open, but selling liquor to minors or employing children in saloons was not tolerated. Saloons and dance halls could roar all night, but it quickly all stopped at midnight Saturday. There was no work whatsoever on Sunday. People were even arrested for fishing on the Sabbath. Strictest of all was the rule of no guns. Americans surrendered their guns in mass and in total. The result? There was not a single firearm shooting offense recorded in the entire first year of the Dawson City boomtown. Over the years, Canada has always tried to keep away from a lot of guns and particularly rifles and handguns. And they've maintained that policy pretty well. If you're an American and you come up to the Canadian border by vehicle, you can bet your life that one of the questions that the border guard will ask you, do you have any guns with you? And handguns and other guns are not allowed in Canada. You have to get a permit to bring them in or to travel through, even if you're going on through to Alaska. And so the other thing that we should say here is that I'm going to keep making these travelogues, but I think I'll slow up a little bit. Maybe we'll do one a week or one every 10 days. And where are we headed to next? Well, we might go back to Dawson. I want to do a travelogue certainly on Skagway, which was another big part of the story of the Klondike Gold Rush. So we'll be headed that way, but we're headed down into the States, and I've got a notion I might even just go to Montreal and Quebec City. So either way, follow along, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when we do some of these travelogues. Okay, we'll see you down the trail.